You are listening to Radio Maria Canada, a Catholic voice wherever you are. We now present the program Via Ruah, hosted by Anna Rivera.
Welcome, everyone. This is a new sort of way of giving you the message, the pro-life message today in Via Ruah, where we learn, I gotta still memorize this, how God's breath is a tender secret that creates and upholds all life from possession to natural death. Today we have Diane. Am I saying it correctly?
Yes.
And today she's gonna tell us about her story, her testimony of why she's pro-life and what she's involved in. So I guess we can start with that, Diane. Why are you pro-life?
Well, I was born and raised Christian, so the value and dignity of life was always kind of instilled in me. But I don't think I really understood the implications of that until I reached high school, was probably when I was first confronted with the issue of abortion. I had never even heard of it up until that point. And when it was presented to me in high school, it was presented as just a last ditch scenario. Like if you were in a really desperate situation, you had no other options and you needed to end the pregnancy, because otherwise, like something terrible was going to happen to the mother. That was the only situation that was really presented to me as like, oh yeah, it's just for these desperate situations. And in high school, that made sense to me because I was like, okay, well, yeah, if she's going to die, then and abortion is the only way to save her life, then it makes sense that you would save the person you can save. Which is obviously like not what's actually happening. First of all, abortion's never medically necessary. And sort of the lethal circumstances where the mother's life is in danger, that is one of the rarest cases where abortion is actually used. I didn't start learning that side of things until I was in university. I went to Wilfrid Laurier University, and it was the controversy surrounding Lindsay Shepherd. She was, if you've heard of it before, basically she was a TA who shared a video of Jordan Peterson, basically just for conversation. She was not endorsing him. She was not condemning him. She was basically like, this is a big deal right now in the media. What do you guys think? And there was a whole thing against her.
And you were in first year?
I was in first or second year at the time. So there's this whole thing against her. And I had some friends who were in the conservative club, and they were starting to bring up, oh, well, the media lied about this, and the media lied about this, and the media lied about this. And it was all related to the Lindsay Shepherd incident. But that kind of springboarded me into like, oh, well, what else have they lied about? Which led me down the abortion rabbit hole. And the more I learned, the more I realized that, there's innocent humans who are being killed en masse at a rate that has never been seen before. And I, as a Christian, was doing absolutely nothing. So felt guilty about that, felt convicted on that, and committed to doing whatever I can to try to end that.
And then do you think, was Lindsay Shepherd, that's her name?
Yeah.
Is she Christian?
I don't actually know. I have no idea what her faith background is.
I guess the reason why I asked, and also related to you, is knowing that, we are sometimes very fearful, or we're not convicted enough to take action in something that really pulls on our heart. Because we're like, we see an injustice and we're like, what should I do? And sometimes, most often than not, especially with the pro-life movement, we decide not to act or quietly be pro-life in a way, right? And then from that experience, I guess then you were convicted. So then how did you start getting involved in the pro-life movement?
Well, yeah, so I was convicted like just on a moral sense, that how could I possibly stand by and do nothing while this is happening? But also the urgency was increased. I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact verse, but there is a verse in the Bible that basically loosely says that if you do nothing to save those who are stumbling towards, well, obviously it says save those who are stumbling towards slaughter, but there's another verse that says if you do nothing, if you see an evil happening and you do nothing and blood is shed, that blood is on your hands. Again, paraphrase, I can't remember the exact wording, but I distinctly remember that verse and going, okay, so I have to do something. When I was in university, I didn't actually know what to do. I was not familiar with any of the pro-life movements. I didn't know very much at all about crisis pregnancy centers. My church would have had a pro-life position, but they were not active. So the first avenue I tried was the political one. Like I mentioned, I was connected to friends who were
Conservative.
in the conservative club, and of course they were connected to the Conservative Party. And our local MP was very strongly pro-life, Harold Albrecht. So that was the first avenue that I was trying. I was like, okay, maybe I have to get into the political field. But the more I engaged on the political side of things, the more I realized that it was fundamentally a lack of education, that people just were not realizing the amount of deception that was happening and the injustice that was happening, and ultimately what abortion was actually doing. Like you'll hear it all the time, oh, it's just a clump of cells, it's just like removing a tumor or pulling a nail, right? Because that's the rhetoric that we're given. So the more I saw that sort of thing coming up from the political side, I was like, okay, it's not just the politics, it's not just the law, like people need to understand what's actually happening. So at this point, it was, I think it was the first wave of lockdowns or the second wave of lockdowns. I can't remember. And I was kind of in between jobs because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just graduated.
Like, yeah, like everyone that graduates university or college. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, this is just very like, I don't know, very random, but yeah, sometimes even people with college diplomas get a job faster than somebody with a
Yeah.
university degree.
My husband, actually, yeah.
Just a side note, but anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and honestly, like, I don't use anything I got from university, so I kind of just skip that whole process and
Maybe working in a team, presentation
I got that.
skills.
Cool. But you know what I did get from university? I got the connection.
Okay.
I got the connections that
Oh yeah,
led,
amen. Yeah. Okay.
led to what I'm currently doing. So yeah, like I said, it was lockdowns, and you know, I just graduated and I was looking for a job, didn't know what I wanted to do, kind of bouncing between a few different options. And one of my friends who was connected to the Catholic group, the conservative group, and also the pro-life group on his campus. He was part of National Campus Life Network's one of their student groups, and he happened to know that they were looking for a new Ontario coordinator. And he also knew that I was looking for a job. So he recommended me, and yeah, one thing led to the next, and here I am.
So so right now you're the regional coordinator for campus.
Executive director now. So I was regional coordinator for a year and a half, maybe 2 years, can't remember, it's kind of blurry. But now executive director.
What prompted you to want to accept that position as the executive director?
Yeah, honestly, I think it was the longer, like I've been involved in as the Ontario regional coordinator for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And it was seeing how much need there was on campus, not just with regards to abortion, but every time I'm on campus or even doing activism right outside of a campus, students they'll start with the abortion issue, and then that will become everything else. They'll be asking, like I've had students start with the abortion issue, and then they're asking about government overreach, and they're asking about media, and they're asking about politics and morals and ethics and the value of any life at all. They're asking questions about religion. They're asking questions about, you know, euthanasia. They're asking questions about what is truth and what is justice. And there's this huge void on campus. And oftentimes when students start with the discussion of abortion, it leads into all these other things that they know that they're missing.
So National Campus Life Network helps, I guess, do the apologetic side one-on-one
Yes.
inside the universities.
Yes, yeah. So we'll do like campus tabling or boothing. So similar to the apologetics that CCBR will do outside in like city streets, we just take that and put it on campus. And then we also do like special events and special training for the students on campus. So it's not just the activism side of things. But yeah, it was just I was coming to realize there was this massive void. Like students were looking for truth and they were looking for answers, and nobody was delivering that.
And you weren't afraid?
No.
Okay.
No, I think
Because so I guess you became the regional, what was it, regional coordinator?
regional coordinator first,
And that was in your, during COVID,
yeah, first like couple waves of lockdowns.
and this would be like third year now, or?
Yeah, probably around the third year. Yeah, no, I wasn't afraid. I guess it never really sunk in to be afraid. Like I knew logically that things could go wrong and people could get angry and things could happen. But it hasn't happened to me.
Yeah, wow.
Not seriously. Like there have been some pretty intense conversations and some people who got pretty mad, but nothing that really escalated. And I remember, talking with a couple friends and counselors when I was making the decision. And basically what it came down to was, I guess, very similar to the concept of being more afraid of God than I am of man. That I know that this is an injustice, and I know that there are preborn human beings who are being killed, and then there are millions of other people who are being led astray into destruction indirectly. And if I sit back and say, I'm too afraid to do something, I don't think God's going to accept that. So yeah, it's worth the risk, and thank God nothing has happened. But it's worth the risk.
I do think in a ironic way, we are very protected.
Yeah.
You hear about the stories though, of people being hit, especially they're doing the apologetics on the street. But I do think to a certain extent, like let's say one day that ends up happening, you end up physically, somebody wants to take away something, or something that's more aggravated, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Like that's.
I think, all the extreme videos that I see,
Yeah,
they're all in America. Almost all of them are happening in America. There's been a couple in Canada, but almost all of the extreme reactions that I've seen where people have been like, hurt, usually it's south of the border that's happening. I think honestly it's just Canadians, even when we're mad, we're usually pretty polite. So yeah, like by and large, the worst thing that I've seen is somebody grabbing a sign, which of course is still not appropriate, like even if you do disagree and even if you do have like strong convictions. But most of the time, and in my experience, most of the time, people are usually still pretty polite. They're usually still pretty Canadian, even when they're mad.
And I do, when I'm afraid, if I go on the streets and I have this mental mindset where I do feel the intense, because it feels very tense. The environment feels very tense because you're disagreeing with somebody, outrightly disagreeing with them in their face. And this is just, I guess, for everybody that's listening, this is more of an aggressive approach where you have graphic images and you're out there voicing the opinion against abortion. I can see why people can react instead of respond.
Yeah.
And then also with that, remembering that the child that is in this picture was dismembered. And whatever happens to me today, if it was to happen, by the grace of God, doesn't really happen. If it was to happen, I am the one that's being, taking the small abuse of what this baby that was innocent, vulnerable, took on. And I don't even know their name. I don't even know, they didn't even have a proper burial. And that's something that we also forget. Sometimes even I think about it, I'm like, all these babies are just being discarded. Where are they going? What's happening with their organs? What's happening with the body parts? And it's just very hard to think about.
Yeah. And I think sometimes that's I don't know if this is just more on the campus side of things, or if it happens on like street activism as well. But I think that's part of the reason why it's so difficult. Like I mentioned, when students we'll start the conversation on campus and we start with abortion, and then they start asking all these other questions and realizing more and more, like almost every conversation I've had, students have realized just how deep the deception runs. And I think that's really hard, like realizing that it sounds cliched, but your whole life has been a lie. Everything that you thought was truth and justice was actually a perversion of what real truth and justice looks like. It can be hard. It can be really, really difficult to grapple with that, especially when, most of these conversations run 30 minutes to 60 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a lot to learn in a single conversation. And I call them the repeat customers, because oftentimes students will come back with more questions.
Yeah. Repeat customer.
Because we'll do boothing like multiple times with any given campus, and students will come back with more questions.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's questions that we didn't get to the first time because they had to go off to campus. Sometimes it's questions like, they asked a question, I gave an answer, they thought about it more, and then they're coming back with a new question. But yeah, it's.
Do you have any conversations that stand out to you and you're like, this is something that I could see their mind changing from point A,
Oh,
when
absolutely.
they could be have very pro-abortion, to now, you know what, I see the humanity of this preborn child.
Yeah, lots. Most conversations that I've had, by the grace of God, have made that conversion. I'm trying to think. There's only a couple conversations that I've ever had where a person left still justifying abortion. Almost every conversation, minus like those couple that I've had, almost every other conversation has ended with the person saying they agree that it's wrong. They think it should be illegal, and the only cases where they think that it might be okay would be if it was a young girl who was raped and she has absolutely no support, then maybe in that case. Which, to go from like fully pro-choice and abortion should be legal all the time under every circumstance, to just this very tiny, very, very, like, in terms of percentage, it's a very, very small percentage. And it is a very, very, very difficult situation. I can empathize with and understand why that would be the toughest one for people to be able to,
Comprehend.
yeah, to try to step in. I can understand that. So yeah, to go from here to here in a single conversation, it
And
happens quite
how
frequently.
long? So that would take, I guess it depends on the person, right?
Yeah, it depends on the
60
person.
minutes.
Yeah, on average, I think the average conversation that I have with people is close to 30-40 minutes. Sometimes it goes longer. Sometimes it's really fast, like within 10-15 minutes, they're already in agreement. That doesn't happen as often though. But yeah.
And then what do you think most, from your experience in talking to a lot of students, why do you think they're pro-choice? Like, what's like one of the number one reasons why you think they would say they're rightfully pro-choice?
Rightfully pro-choice, or?
Oh, rightfully, like just like.
Oh, okay.
No, like especially like, let's say to those people that you've talked to, you've gone through all the arguments, but they're still saying,
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
so the vast majority of students that I speak to who are pro-choice, it's literally only because they don't know any better. They've been told their entire lives it's just a clump of cells, it's not a human, not a person, doesn't matter, right? And when all the politicians, all the media, all the doctors, when everyone's saying the same thing, I tell the students that I work with, I'm like, give them grace. This is one of the most sophisticated brainwashing campaigns that have ever happened in all of human history. So you and I can look at that and say, it's so obvious that this is wrong, and it is. But at the same time, this is, again, one of the most sophisticated psychological warfare incidences in all of human history. So to give grace to people, because a lot of them just don't know. And most of the time that's most of the conversation, is just getting them to realize through some very logical, very simple, very rational steps that, okay, it is a human, it is living, and there is no such thing as a human non-person. Therefore, abortion has to be illegal. It's immoral. At that point, usually then they agree that it's wrong, but then they're just looking for answers. Like, what about a crisis situation? Like, I agree that abortion is wrong and it shouldn't happen, but what do you do in these cases where, you kind of have two victims? You've got the mother as a victim and you've got the baby as a victim. what's the correct circumstances? And usually, I heard, I think it's Lays Lane said this from CCBR. He said at that point, they're not asking if the baby's a human. They already know the baby's a human. They're asking if you're a human, right? Like, do you care about the suffering of, yeah, they're asking, are you human? Do you have a heart? Right. And usually in those parts of the conversation, I'll talk to people trotting out the toddler, right? Like just highlighting, if you had a similar circumstance and it was a born child, what would the answer be? And obviously the answer is not to kill this 2-year-old child because of the difficult circumstances that the mother's going through. Because killing an innocent person is wrong. You don't kill innocent people to solve problems. And there's always a better option. And as soon as you get through that, people are usually like, okay, yeah, there's a better option, one that supports and reaffirms the dignity of the mother, one that supports and reaffirms the dignity of the baby, and effectively responds to the triage situations that happen. The ones who are still the toughest students I guess not just students, but the toughest people to convert, I guess, on the ideology. Those would be the folks who have justified internally that there is such thing as a human non-person, because then you're dealing with somebody who
Human non-person.
Yes. So
they're human, but they're not a person.
Yes.
Okay.
So most of the time, like for instance, a pro-choicer will say, okay, yeah, it's a human and it's living, but it doesn't have brain activity yet, or something to that effect. And then you're going to explain, like you give them a parallel example. It's like, okay, well, take this patient in a coma, right? Are you just going to go shoot them because they're in a coma and they don't have measurable brain activity? Well, no, that's horrible, right? It's like, exactly. So having brain activity is not what makes a human a person, right? And usually you'll go through that a few times. Like it's not conscious, it doesn't have memories, it doesn't have a heartbeat. Like usually there'll be like a few sequences that you have to go through, and you have to pull out these parallel examples and prove that, okay, well that's not what makes them a person. And usually they'll come around and they'll realize, okay, well, there's no such thing as a human non-person. There are some people who, however, who don't. So like, you give them the parallel example and you're like, okay, well, this patient with the patient in a coma can't feel pain, no measurable brain activity. And they'll turn around and they'll say, that wouldn't be killing a person. Right. And it's on one hand, it's kind of like not the conversation with the individual that I'm having, like they're not scary. But it's scary to think that we've gotten to this point in society as a whole where that sort of logic is permeating, where it's like, that I can justify that because you are lacking this particular characteristic, you're not really a person.
You're not checking out the checklist.
Yeah. That there's a certain sequence of characteristics that you have to meet in order to be a person. And that one, yeah, like it's hard. But I think usually at that point you're not really dealing with an intellectual debate. Like I have not won an argument with a student like that from an intellectual standpoint. It's usually a fundamental question of human dignity. And that usually relates to something in their own history. They have at some point internalized that there is something that in some way, shape, or form made them less worthy. Therefore, there are characteristics that can make other people less worthy.
Wow. That's very deep.
It
gets, it cuts to the heart, right?
It does. And I was actually doing an apologetics training call with some students yesterday, and I said, the best apologists and the best activists are also very good psychologists.
Yes,
because
you have to be, because you have to listen to the other person.
Yeah.
Listen to what they've been through and why they're thinking this.
Yes. And even further, because I've had students who have asked, like, they have Christian background and they're asking, like, am I taking away from my Christian evangelism by engaging in like abortion apologetics? And I've told them, like, first of all, they go hand in hand, right? Like Christian evangelism, part of that fundamentally and inherently is the dignity of every life. You can't separate the gospel from the concept of dignity of life. So if you are doing that, I would suggest that you consider the possibility that maybe you're not sharing the whole gospel. With that being said, again, I think the best evangelism that I've seen has actually been done during abortion apologetics, because when you're able to,
That's a high claim, Diane.
it's the best that I've seen. And again, I'm speaking from just from my experience.
Mhm.
And from the things that I've seen that students will bring up, because when I have done just pure evangelism, right? I might be able to convince somebody of the core of the gospel, that Jesus came, he died, he rose again. And they might say the sinner's prayer, which all that is beautiful and all that is amazing and that's wonderful. That's a soul that's been saved. But oftentimes you haven't cut to the heart yet, the heart of whatever bondage they're in, whatever spiritual oppression they might be going through. And usually that takes a really long time to learn about the person. Like usually that's several months in. I find with abortion apologetics, you find that out in about 10 minutes.
I see. So I see your point. Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes total sense.
yeah, that within a very short period of time, because it's such a contentious issue, because it sits so close to people's hearts, when they're having these conversations, it comes up very fast that like, okay, this is
my response, like your very emotional response.
and this is the stronghold in your
Yeah.
life. This is what you're
Yeah.
struggling with the most.
Yeah.
Whether it's sin in your life, whether it is
Abandonment,
abandonment,
feeling lonely. Yes.
yeah, mental health, physical, like usually it will come out
Yeah,
sometime in the abortion apologetics,
Yeah.
and they will say it, and it's like, yeah, there
Yeah.
we go. There we go.
Have you ever talked to any students that have had abortions?
Yeah.
And then do they accept that, they did that deed and yeah, they did kill their preborn baby, or do they?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a couple instances that come to mind. They stand out the I guess the brightest to me. Did you want to hear about it? Like
Just one of them, sure.
Yeah.
With the
Okay.
time that we have.
Sure, yeah. Okay, so this the biggest one that stands out to me wasn't even me, it was one of my students who was having this conversation with a young girl. And the way he related to me, she came up, he could tell, just like the way she stormed up, she was seeing red, right? Smoke coming out of her ears, sort of thing. And he was bracing for a fight, and the conversation starts, and they go through all the apologetics, and then she brought up a situation like, what if she's a young woman, she's in an abusive relationship, and she's been sexually assaulted, right? And he gave her his answer, and I can't remember if he asked or if she volunteered the information, but after he gave the answer, she told him that she had been in that situation. And he immediately like, okay, are you okay? Are you safe? Do you need support? Like, have you gotten away from this guy? Right? And she confirmed, she said, yeah, I'm safe. This happened quite a few years back. But I'm safe now. I'm in a secure location now. And then he actually took it the next step, and he said, given everything that you know now, would you agree that your baby had to pay the price for somebody else's sins? And she did. She said, you're right.
Wow.
And she said, I can't remember exactly what she said, but something to the effect of, if the same thing happened again, the same situation happened again where she's in an abusive relationship and sexually assaulted and has nowhere to turn, she would feel like she has no choice but to go through with an abortion. But if she knew somebody like this student, she knows that she'd have better options if she could get in touch. And then he shared his faith with her, shared about healing in Jesus, and that what happened in your past does not have to define your future, and you can find forgiveness and salvation through Jesus Christ. Which I was so proud that he took that step.
I do think it's a battle for earning more disciples, because we live in such a broken world, and we don't realize how much more people are thirsting for this, because they're looking for the alternative. they just accept the alternative that the world
Mhm.
offers because it's like you said, it's the doctors and politicians, school, your
All the
friends, your
experts.
family, on TV, social media, celebrities, anyone and everyone you speak to, they're pro-abortion,
Yeah.
healthcare. It's like, okay, I guess I accept this.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
it's a religion in a way.
It is. It's its own religion.
So I guess
Yeah.
to what you're saying, is there any form, or I guess anybody that's listening, how can people get involved with National Campus Life Network? How can they get in contact, or if any students are listening, how does that unfold?
Yeah. So I think the easiest way to get in touch, go to ncln.ca/join a club. Sign up there, register there, and I'll be in touch within 1 to 2 business days. And then we'll get you in contact with any of the local programs that are running in your area, any local clubs. We'll help you start a club, we'll help you start a program. We have basically there's so many different ways that students can get involved. They can start their own club, but they can join a club, they can join our social media team, they can join our research council, or they can join, we do bi-weekly training
What's
sessions.
Research Council?
Research Council, so that's a group of students all across Canada. It's a remote group. We meet once a week, depending on schedules, once a week or once every other week, and basically we study and we research various aspects of the abortion issue. So, for instance, we ran some research council sessions earlier this year, I think it was January, February, looking into maternal mortality, because that was the big thing, was like, oh, all these women are dying because they can't get abortions. So we looked into that, and we did research and studies on the regions that had implemented abortion bans and what were their maternal mortality rates. For the areas that did have high maternal mortality rates, what was that linked to? Spoiler alert, it wasn't abortion. It was usually diet and exercise and maternal health care before and during a pregnancy. And then also looking into the cases of women who did die and what happened. And again, it was not the lack of access to an abortion. It was erring on the side of giving everyone the greatest amount of benefit of doubt that I possibly can. It was medical ignorance, doctors not doing what they should have done because they weren't recognizing the gravity of the
Which
situation.
we've heard, right? With
Yeah.
the abortion pill, sometimes parts of the baby get left behind, and then
Yeah.
the woman's running to emergency, and then
And-
it's too late, and then she passes away.
And not just too late, like quite a few of the cases where she was turned away, right? Like, oh, this is
That's
normal.
true.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just
Just wait until you
give it a few days.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
still feeling sick, come back in 2 to 3 days. But by that point, it's already escalated.
And we're saying we're pro woman.
Yeah. Yeah, the irony. So yeah, that's what our research council does. They do general research on just like general topics relating to abortion, and then when there's like a particular social situation that's going on, such as like Roe v. Wade being overturned or claims about maternal mortality, then they'll hyper focus on that issue. And then the goal is, we're still working towards this goal, but eventually we want the research council and the media teams to collaborate. So when there's something big going on, the research council will find out the truth about everything. They'll give the information to the media team. The media team will disseminate
And
it.
these are all alumni students or students, right?
Combination. So we've got some current students who are involved in these two teams, and some alumni, NCLN alumni, who are involved in these teams. So yeah,
Beautiful.
Yeah, pretty excited.
Is there any word of advice that you want to say to any Christian Catholic that is listening to this and is still just trying to figure out what to do to get involved in the pro-life movement?
Simplest piece of advice: reach out. Whether it's to me, whether it's to your local crisis pregnancy center or one of the other teams that are running, there's Right Now, there's Campaign Life Coalition, there's CCBR, there's Silent No More, there's a whole plethora of different organizations. If you're not sure who to reach out to, that's my job. Reach out to me and I will tell you where to go.
Awesome.
But yeah, just reach out, get connected, and from that point, like once you're connected, there is so much that needs to be
There's
done.
a sea, there's an ocean.
Yeah. Once you're in, you will have stuff to do.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Diane.
Thank you.
God bless you and keep up the good fight.
Thank you as well.
Awesome.
You have been listening to the program Via Ruah, hosted by Anna Rivera here on Radio Maria Canada, a Catholic voice wherever you are.